And the track here is Servitude. I'm trying to think of a new intro every fucking time, but I don't think of the fucking audience moment. Anyway, the track is very interesting for obviously thrash metal standards because it's kind of like a more mellow track overall. It's not fast, it's not even like thrashy, but it does feel like it's so like heavy. I remember transcribing this and stuff, and it's one of the heaviest tracks that Sylosis has ever done. It's just so unique as well for what it's doing, and obviously from this album, it's quite a different vibe as well. Sort of the start of a different sound to an extent, and sort of the transition to what later became was that other album. I can't remember. I don't know. There's the one with the people in the. There's always people in the album. What am I thinking of? The one with. I'm trying to think of a track. Nvidia. That's one of the tracks. I can't remember the rest. But yeah, honestly, a really good track. I really enjoyed this one, and enjoyed playing it as well. It's pretty unique. Anyway, let's move on. Well, I didn't expect this to be the first topic, but sure. This is one way to lose an argument over something real, but something that is being misled and misinformed. Watching the Channel 4 documentary still called I Went Undercover in the Far Right Britain, exposing the far right. And I think one of the documentary makers, I could be wrong, maybe the Hope Not Hate campaigner, was doxxed and had takeaways sent, and apparently was being planned to be potentially murdered because there was a gun involved. Just fucking nuts. But, this really demonstrates a point here where they think a violent uprising is going to solve all the problems. But it's not. When they start going to the streets, shooting like an Indian child or a Muslim woman or again, even just some foreign-looking man, it's not going to solve any fucking problems, because the one fire you can never put out is the truth. And the truth is far more powerful than what you're pushing, which is misinformation, disinformation, everything wrong with it, and even the violence. And that the truth overcomes all of that, because the truth is set in stone. It's not set in some sort of fucking reality that you've made up in your head, where there's like a utopia where you can get away with abusing women. There's no such thing as that. It's literally delusion, and the truth is not based in delusion. It's based in reality, again, set in stone. And unfortunately people hijack it, saying that they've got the truth, but they don't actually understand it, and it's essentially the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the only way the truth can be real is when you can actually demonstrate it. So you can actually show evidence for these things. And one of the absolute worst ways to even portray a truth is when you need to actually just physically threaten someone's life or their livelihoods to make a point. This is an utter fucking failure, and it makes your point invalid. It goes for sane people if they're on like the left, for example, because let's make it fair here, as it needs to be. If there's someone on the left doing the same thing, like doxing someone, planning to get a gun to kill someone that they disagree with on the right, that makes them equally as evil, and it invalidates any truth that they've held. It doesn't invalidate the entire truth, that's the difference here, but it doesn't look good, and that's what it does for both sides. So when I see this case where it's only ever the far right doxing people and threatening them, it really pushes the point home. It shows that they don't actually have an argument, and so they have to silence people who have the argument. It's the only way that they see any sort of quote-unquote progress, but I'd call it regress instead, because they're not favouring demonstrable truths. So again, it's a failure, and I think it always will be so long as nothing changes there. So yeah, this really sucks. And as is demonstrated in this documentary, there just seems to be a massive amount of apathy when it comes to exposing not just the real problems in the UK, but everything else. You care about money? What the fuck about the wealth tax? Why is that not being talked about? You care about women and children? Talk about better fucking law enforcement and even better help services for women and children. You know, one of the things that I will mention, which is kind of important, although I don't like mentioning it because obviously the wrong people can hear it, but there are women with phones in secret that they use to actually get help for domestic situations. And that really demonstrates a lot of the issues here as well. The fact they need to do that is just crazy. It shows you that the major problems here, and we cannot ignore that. These problems exist because certain people put them there. The far right, sadly, are mostly the people who do these crimes. And I will happily be proven wrong in that, but I'm sure there's been a study on it and I have seen it about the far right having the most criminals involved doing these things that they're fighting against. Whether it's a past conviction or present, both seem to happen, and that really demonstrates the point. But I think there is an ulterior motive when it comes to the far right. It's people being misinformed, like an older generation is being sucked up from this, and as for people being misinformed, it's like they only see what they see on the algorithm, and that doesn't help. Algorithms are pretty responsible for a lot of the issues we see now, where there's so much misinformation and even like botting situations and doxing. Because even then, like doxing is a huge issue at the moment, and the way to stay safe in that is never to reveal personal information online to anyone you don't trust or publicly, because it's like the absolute worst thing you could do, and that will just lead people to your location. Yeah, it's not about getting a VPN either, because the VPN only covers your internet tracks. That's it. But it doesn't do anything else. And I've even seen someone talk about this actually. I think it's Kit Bogle on YouTube. But these are the sort of people we're dealing with. They're willing to go these illegal routes, highly illegal, to make a point, or to even silence an argument. Which again is extremely dangerous. And if anything, I think the government should be looking into providing, if they haven't already, protections for the relevant parties, the ones who are commonly under attack, which no doubt will be the Lib Dems and Greens in the UK. But I guess it even goes widespread, because it's across the world, it's a geopolitics issue as well. So we need protections for even those people, like, I don't know if Mayor Mamdani has any protection in New York, but I think he should have, and if he doesn't, then, bro, I'm sorry, but you are in terrible fucking danger, because people are just absolutely nuts. Like, it's just fucking crazy. Especially as I've seen Mamdani actually making posts about the ICE executions, which is good, because he's one of the only people in the US making those posts and telling people how awful it is. But yeah, it's just fucking nuts. I cannot believe this shit. It's just, why? Anyway, I haven't really got anything else to add, so that's about it. So yeah, let's move on. No doubt a thing that is likely mentioned in a lot of these far right things now. It's probably a narrative about people on the left where we're probably being mocked for wanting to see basically evidence for every claim. And I think that's really important, because addressing these issues that they have, I think, could be itself a way to obviously tell people they are wrong, and it could be beneficial, like you never know. I really think that addressing this is important, so people will no doubt say, why do you keep asking for evidence? It's probably a question we get more often than we like. I've definitely seen it a couple times, and say every time. But it is definitely a thing. And it's concerning, because it should be self-evident, pun intended I suppose, that this is exactly what we need. Like, it is so fucking obvious. But the fact that they're even fighting against this shows that education has failed us, and is really a fucking disappointment. Because what the hell? Why? Why is this even a thing? It just makes no sense. But either way, I think we need to address it, so I think it's easy to address anyway, to respond to. Basically, evidence is there, so we're not guiding ourselves wrong. We're not guiding ourselves wrongly. That's it. That's the entire point of evidence, and when I specifically mention demonstrable evidence, it means similar things. Because I think there is evidence that isn't demonstrable. Anecdotes, for example, can be evidence, but they are not demonstrable evidence. So demonstrable evidence is when you can demonstrate it. So how do you know there's gravity? Well, you drop things, and you see where they go. And that's how you know there's gravity. That's demonstrable evidence. And if there's no gravity, then there's demonstrable evidence that there's no gravity, but that also relates to the area you're in. So if somehow you're in outer space in some fucking bizarre turn of events, obviously it's demonstrable evidence that there's literally no gravity in space. So yes, it does matter. Evidence does matter. Because that's how we determine these things. It's how we know if we're right or wrong. How we choose right from wrong. And people should be choosing, obviously, the best option here, which is demonstrable evidence. But we really need to see that. And we need to see it more on the people on the right, because frankly there's not enough. If I were to look at the demonstrable evidence for the things that they're saying, like, because this is really important, but something like the amount of migrant minorities there are where they commit crimes. So whether it is drug deals, abusing people, or sexually assaulting people, or even just murder. Like, there's different crimes there can be. But if we were to look into demonstrable evidence around this, there isn't really any. As in, there are studies out there, but there isn't any evidence to prove that it links to immigrants. Essentially, it's failed sort of evidence, like it's invalid evidence. So once again, when you look into it, you only ever find anecdotes or news articles, which are some of the lowest forms of evidence, and there is an evidence hierarchy. I recommend people look into it. It's a bit complicated at first, but you start to see a pattern. It relates to studies more often than it does this sort of thing, but studies do help, and they are a form of demonstrable evidence. We can demonstrate it. And if someone were to do a study again, they would find the same things. They'd be able to reflect the same findings and share similarities, whether it's old or new, but it's probably mainly new as well, depending on what it is. This is the point. This is how you get to the bottom of things. So how do we protect women and children from, say, migrants, but also people who are actually guilty of this shit, who've done sexual assault, who've abused people, who've caused many problems? And the answer, again, is the same thing. We find demonstrable evidence for what's helped women and children in countries where they have better protections. So we look at somewhere that's got better enforcement on protecting women from sexual assault, domestic violence, and children from domestic violence, sexual assault, etc. And we determine what to do from that. Admittedly, we're not the same sort of societies or cultures, so there are flaws in it. But it's the closest thing we've got. And so we have to try. And if we somehow fail, then obviously we need to change that. But we can't delude ourselves, and this is the thing that I ironically disagree with on the left. We cannot delude ourselves into thinking this is the only answer. Like, you might hear about wealth tax, for example, and demonstrably it does work, as far as I'm aware. It's worked in New York for Herman, and it's worked in other countries, I believe. But people are not looking into that, and so they're just going off the words of what others say in a very sort of, I'm not sure if I'd call it pseudo-scientific, but just a very made-up way, I guess. It's probably the best way to put it. So there's a lot of truth lost and a lot of falsities in this narrative that people spread about wealth tax is not working. Because it does work. This is the thing. And yet people ignore it, but you can't delude yourselves into thinking that it always works, and that's the difference. And people keep bringing that up for some reason. And another thing I don't see mentioned is about incentives, where instead of a tax, why not have investments? Why not set a wage cap sort of thing instead of a wealth tax? Because that would be far more important for any given job that is currently in trouble as a result of ultra wealthy. And again, that requires demonstrable evidence, and I can't even prove that because I haven't looked into it. I can definitely say we need to look into it rather than look at the face, because where people look at the moment is the face, and we don't see anything from face value. And that's why we can't make a fucking agreement. It's pretty much a no-brainer at that point. But yeah, I don't really know what to say. Demonstrable evidence is the way forward, and if you somehow disagree with that, prove it wrong. Because I need to know, the world needs to know. If you can somehow prove it wrong, try. You know, if I ever got into somehow debate with someone like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, or Netanyahu, or somehow Putin, not sure how that would happen, or any of these really, to be honest, or even just Nigel Farage, Tommy Robinson, anyone like that, they would have to speak on terms of objectionality. I don't know if that's actually a word. Objectivality, but you know, on objective terms. So again, we're talking about the evidence hierarchy here, and that's really important. That's where that comes from. But if they can't respond to it, then they've lost the argument. They shouldn't be allowed to spread this sort of argument without the evidence, without any sort of lead on this sort of thing. And in a way, I sort of thought about this as well. This is the other thing I was actually going to talk about. So, fun fact, I've actually been thinking about what it would be like in a society where we actually follow demonstrable evidence, and I see so many benefits from it. We'll still have discourse, we'll still have some of the issues we have now, but we'd have far less to worry about politically and even just in other areas like climate. Because under a democratic society, in the world landscape, whatever you call it, we see so many different benefits, and the only things we'd be debating, like the lowest, is probably like maybe we don't turn the clocks back, for example. That's maybe one of the major things, actually, to be fair, but I'm trying to think of something minor, like maybe bus routes, but that'll probably be like the minor thing that is talked about. But then the most extreme thing would be something like crimes and prisons. So how we would treat them would be different per Democratic Party. So there might be a Democratic Party of, let's say, HYPERSKY at the moment, where I think he said, I couldn't quote this, I think he said he wants to demolish prisons and get people into rehabilitation instead, which is a good move, but it does mean that prisons will be gone, and that's obviously not good. But then you look at something like, I don't know, Lib Dems, you've got like Davey, I don't know his policies 100%, I should probably look into that actually. I'll look it up, maybe Owen Jones' on site. But basically, if you look into the same thing, it's like, oh, well, you know, maybe there is actually a thing here, like where they say, David, I'm not quoting him, just to be clear, I'm just making this up, but he might say keep prisons, and he might say rehabilitate on top of that, and maybe introduce a death penalty for certain people, which I think is kind of important. Like, it's kind of weird, but maybe equal punishment as well as like a third party there. So maybe there's like a Jeremy Corbyn sort of party in an ideal world where equal punishment is a thing, and that's also what you vote for, again at the extreme levels. So if we're talking crime, those sort of things happen, and no doubt all the parties will share some sort of similarity in between helping the victims. And that's what an ideal world would look like under democratic leadership. You get crime treated the way it should be, as people who are dangerous should be put into places where they can't be dangerous, and people who want to change go into places that they can change. It's very simple. And these extremes are treated normally, and obviously equal punishment should be a thing too, piled on top of that. So there is actually like a solid, set in stone way to treat people. And likewise, the way it addresses our society as well, like we keep rights, we monitor free speech, as long as people aren't spreading anything threatening or hateful. Those are the only two things that are kind of like, yeah, but hate speech in terms of if you're judging someone by inherent traits, I think that is a form of hate speech. Because that's the thing I talked about Tommy Robinson, and I'll go back to this. He made some sort of fucking claim about gay people being paedophiles, and he provided no evidence, which is bizarre, because you should be providing evidence for such a large claim to demonise gay people, which, by the way, some of them even serve you. So what's that about? Suspicious, I'll admit. But, give the benefit of doubt. Let's say the evidence is a study, maybe, and they find out that a majority of paedophiles are attracted to boys. Sure, they may be attracted to boys, but this isn't explaining how it relates to gay people, because these are two different things. Gender is an entire different kind of spectrum. You've got people attracted to guys who look feminine, you've got people attracted to guys who look masculine, or guys who just look like rocks. They're called Matt, by the way. That's a joke. But, there's a different type of attraction for different people. And our evidence with things like paraphilias, which paedophilia is under, it comes under different types of scrutiny and even just laws in terms of the psychological and psychiatric world. And we disassociate gender from it because it's basically all about age as a paraphilia, usually is, or paedophilia. And then something like paraphilia dives into the broad spectrum of that, so not just age, but also the types of things you have. Like there could be, I think, is it zoophilia? I can't remember the term. I think there's zoophilia, and then there's something like sadism. Not sure if that's the term. Necrophilia, that's what I was thinking of. And there is another one that's like torturing, and also weird ones like, I can't remember, like, I don't know. But these exist, and they're definitely like a very misunderstood area. But the way we address it and talk about it is not through the way that Tommy Robinson talks about it, which is pairing people together when there's nothing to pair there because we can't find evidence of it. And instead we just look at how to address these problems properly. Again, looking at the crime thing, you put the people in for equal punishment and prison sentence if they've done something that violent. Though you can't persecute people for not acting, but that's kind of one of the other issues. So it requires education, and then education also requires funding, it requires jobs, and so on. But this is what it's about. I think the more complicated something is, the better it can be. Because at the moment, the way the simple things go, it doesn't always have a good look. And that's pretty much true, and it's the same with what Tommy Robinson is saying. Again, there's no evidence for this claim, and that would be the difference. Has there been any evidence? So no, there's nothing there. There's no fucking freak show, there's no, like, nothing about LGBTQ plus people that's incriminating by any standards. And if you can even somehow condemn asexual people, which a country actually recently did, somehow, then I think you've lost the fucking plot. Asexual people exist, it's on a spectrum. Everyone has an element of it to an extent. But it depends on where you are. And it's different for everyone else. And the same with the other parts of that, like aromantic is another one. You've got intersex people who I'm pretty sure are not born, they are born that way actually, that's wrong. But they obviously can't control that. So, again, these things need to be evident. Not said, just evident. That's all people ask for. But again, you can't get rid of the truth, you can't extinguish this, because there is no way to do that. And even something like homosexuality, it's observed in nature. Animals do it. So you're not doing anything by getting rid of gay people, by incriminating gay people. And the same will also apply to pedophiles. You're not doing anything by incriminating them either. And let alone pairing them with gay people somehow, which again, you have to also apply it to the other side, so the straight people who only go for the opposite gender. In those cases, they act on it. So this is really important to take into account. And you can't get rid of it again. Again, there's a lot of evidence about that, paraphilias and stuff. It becomes a thing that's very much inherent to someone's being. So that becomes the thing to address, rather than just the actions themselves or getting angry about it. Because that doesn't solve anything. And I've seen it all tear society apart, as it currently does anyway. Anyway, I don't really have anything else to add. I just think it's really frustrating to see all this shit, really. I think that the world could do a big favour by having the evidence be out there and be literally explained, because it's really important. Anyway, let's move on. So I wanted to talk about this documentary I just watched, which is pretty important. It's a Channel 4 documentary again, but this one's about exposing the far right going undercover. And it's a very interesting documentary if it is to be believed, because I believe it has some pretty important details about what we see in day-to-day politics in terms of anti-migration, Tommy Robinson, these groups that keep appearing. And it has some very interesting details, including a very surprise funder for whatever it was. I can't remember the name of it now. But man, it's extremely fucking disturbing, like, what some of these twats get up to. But literally, as I mentioned in the previous topic, there's literally some guy with literally buying a handgun to supposedly deal with someone that he disagreed with. At least that's what's implied by this. It's not obviously revealed that, but I have a feeling I know where that's going. And it's very concerning, not gonna lie. This shit shouldn't slide. It really shouldn't. And yeah, despite this documentary's findings, people, and this was 8 months ago by the way, and there was another fascist rally, but despite this documentary's findings, people still suck onto this fucking narrative. Like it's like the tastiest dick they've ever had, and they'll be pissed off by that analogy because they also don't like gay people. Well, shitheads, gay things are in nature. Like, literally animals have homosexuality. So what the fuck are you doing? Genuinely, it's so shameful the fact that they're so in the closet that they can't even fucking admit that they are gay themselves, or even acknowledge that it exists in nature. But there's a bunch of this disgusting shit in the documentary about what they believe, and there's even like the superior genes or whatever that means. What the fuck are you on about superior genes? The only thing I can point to with that is sadly related to mental health and physical health. Because some people are genetically born with like higher chance of cancer, higher chance of wrinkles, which I found out recently is a thing. But higher chances of like grey hairs, I think, as well, and mental health. And that's literally passed down from generations, and you can't avoid that. But if they're trying to address that problem, address it as the fucking problem appears. Because you're not going to get rid of it. There's a good chance that the underage girl that you're attracted to, yes, I said underage girl because you're a bunch of pedos in the far right, and there's a chance that she carries those genes. Like, what the fuck? Again, it's disgusting to even think about also suggesting this as well. But that's the reality. That's what they want. And they don't even realise how against their own fucking policies this goes. Despite how disgusting the former is of dating an underage girl. It's just absolutely absurd. And you know, Tommy Robinson's very quick to accuse people of paedophilia himself, which makes me think he is a paedophile. Again, it's like everything I've seen on the internet till this point in my life. Everyone seems to be obsessed with people like this. They're obsessed with paedophiles, they're obsessed with child predators, they're obsessed with anything that causes outrage. And I'm just getting sick of it. Like, do something about it, or shut the fuck up. And they're not doing anything about it. Doing the opposite. Because that's literally what they're intending to do. So it's a whole load of bollocks, really. It's so ridiculous. You don't get anywhere, and there is nothing said that can change anything. Like, God, even hijacking religion itself to make these points is disgusting. And people becoming Jewish, supposedly, so they can spread anti-Muslim hatred, and even people just being anti-Semitic. And to be honest, that is anti-Semitism as well. To be Islamophobic. Because you're only there to stir up trouble. What else? What even is a fucking point? It's so absurd. Every time I hear about these topics. And I think if this documentary is to be believed with its findings, with that surprise sort of founder, or donator rather, towards these groups, which isn't who I expected it to be at all, and I don't even know the person, that's how unexpected it is. But if that's to be believed, then something more needs to be done on an international level. Because I think this documentary reveals a lot, and I think that essentially requires us to look into the people responsible for this, like the people in these groups causing this, creating these issues, and get them arrested, check everything they've used and had, and make sure that they're not in any sort of conflict of interest. They should be fine with that, if they are on the side they say they are. But if they're not, then, you know, it's a massive fucking problem. They've also just shown double standards. They're complete hypocrites. It's strange how many fallacious arguments and beliefs they have when you really look at it. Because they just have so many. And again, it's tiring. I get tired of seeing this crap because it is just such an annoying argument. I'll just pray for the day that the far right will just piss off from the entire face of the planet. If not just through, like, I don't know, seeing around, then by force, because it is so absurd. And they're wanting a fight, and I think we're obligated to even give in to that, because at this point there isn't much else we can do. We are absolutely fucked if we choose to sit around twiddle our thumbs, complaining and protesting, only doing protesting for that matter. But they keep doing evil things. They dox people, they go out on the streets and riot, and go to these protests and shit and do disgusting shit, like pull off a victim of sexual abuse. Like, because she said it was British people doing it. Which is important, by the way. You can't stress enough how important that is. It's not an argument against you, it's an argument with you, and yet you pulled her off because of it. It's absurd. I genuinely don't understand this shit anymore. It almost feels like it's all a complete joke. That was the intent from the beginning. If someone as suspicious as Tommy Robinson was supposed to be in court and be arrested, hence why you can't even go to the UK, apparently. I didn't even know that at the time of the fascist protests. It's just baffling. What the fuck is the UK doing? Get international police involved. Because this is ridiculous, and someone like him, as corrupt as him, with Russian ties, with Elon Musk as a tie, we've got loads of tie now as well, no doubt. It's absolutely absurd. It's heading to strange levels of danger, and there's, again, I have to make the point, I could be on their side, but nothing has been shown, nothing has been proven, so I can't believe it. It's like presenting me a drawing of a unicorn saying, oh yeah, the woke people cause immigrants to rape women and children, and that to me isn't sufficient evidence. This is basically what you're doing. You're drawing a picture very poorly, with a very blunt pencil that you haven't bothered to sharpen, and telling me it's proof. Where you could have essentially just gone on the internet, drawn up a document, sourced all your findings, and proven to me that what you're saying is true with that evidence. What more needs to be said? It's just getting to stupid levels of absurdity, and this documentary really pushes the point home. And in fact, someone like this, someone as skinny and lanky as this guy, is quite a good person by the looks of it and sounds of it. But given that someone like him could even infiltrate, it's like, why? You people are just so fucking dumb. It has to be said, all the people on the far right are just extreme low levels of IQ, and that's even been proven, by the way. So, I don't get it anymore. Just trying to reason with unreasonable people is never a good thing, but if you make your reason simple, like I have, then it's very much possible. But they also need to demonstrate good faith arguments and honesty in order to get somewhere. It's so important. It's ridiculous that it doesn't even happen. So yeah, I don't know what to say. This is just stupid. Anyway, let's move on. Well, I don't know. Well, it's an interesting topic. I suppose it's a follow-up. For the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've been weight training, and this is my first time doing it properly, because before I was just doing like 20 kilogram curls, barely able to do them because they're too heavy. But as I've talked about before, I've changed the weights and I'm on like 12.5 kilograms, so not as strong as I actually thought I was, which is fine. It's a good place to start. But the fact I have to start from there is kind of funny actually, because it's just about the right weight. It's still got issues as I'll go into, so perhaps I need something lighter, but I don't really want to waste some money on that. There is one way to do it actually. But what I find interesting about this experience is it's kind of doing stuff and it's kind of not. I'm doing an exercise, and I think I brought it up here. It's called like the Brute exercise or something. I just pulled it off of Google, or well, Startup or DuckDuckGo. Yeah, Brute by Darby, arms and back, which is training. So obviously if I wanted to do legs, that'd be a different thing, but I sort of already have massive fucking legs. They don't need any more training, trust me. They're so big I can't fit into like 3XLs. I could barely fit into them. So that's not good. Or is it? I think it's good actually. But obviously my kicks would be so fucking dangerous, I think I could probably kill someone. That's the insane thing about that. Yeah, I haven't tried it, so I'll have to see. But yeah, this exercise I've been trying to do sets of these, but I only do one at a time. Because that's about as much as I can handle, because I'm so out of shape. Obviously 12.5 kilogram dumbbells I'm doing in both arms, and I'm doing the bicep curls, trying to do 12 but I can only manage about 8 or 9. Then there's the over rows, bent over rows, which I could do 12 of. And then lateral raises, I could do about 8 or 7. I'm not very good at them, they're really heavy weights, so I don't even know how I can even do it. But I could just about achieve a lateral raise or 2, but then it just goes a bit downhill. Then there's the Arnold presses, which I can do up to about 10 or 11. It turns out I wasn't doing them correctly, which is a bit annoying. I was doing them only about 3/4 of the way. I think you're supposed to do them judging by the image. It shows about all the way. So literally stretching your arms, and I did that and it's kind of like, oh, that's different. Then I did upright toes. Somehow. I'm not always sure about the position of these. Seems like it should be obvious, but it's not always, sadly. So am I doing the bent over rows correctly? Because it's showing 2 different images, but they're like stacked differently. It's got like holding them up and then holding them down. Oh yeah, that's right, yeah. Wait, no. No, it's got it in the wrong order. Interesting. So I'm not even sure if I'm doing that right. But then the final thing I'll do is bent over raises. I thought it was lateral raises on the bent over one. But yeah, they're really difficult. You can only manage about 7, I think, at the moment. But my arms are feeling the burn from it and need time to recover. It takes about 2 days. Which is not bad, I suppose. But part of the reason I'm doing this training is so I can just get a bit stronger and healthier myself. It definitely works. You can tell I'm out of breath. I've just done it. And my heart rate goes up to about 130 BPM during this, which is interesting because that's a bit more than on the treadmill. Even though the treadmill does get me quite high, it gets me to about, I think, 160 at worst. It's usually about 130 as well, which is not bad, but also can be as low as 110, 120. But yeah, it's certainly a workout. I can tell you that much. I'm not sure if it burns calories, but hopefully it will. I sort of need to have that happen. I'm not even overeating, that's a weird thing. You know, I'm not even having any special like protein, I'm just having my usual food. You know, oats with a bunch of fruit and obviously chocolate milk, as I usually do with like Oli or Alpro chocolate soy milk. Depends, and they do have a protein version, which I reckon I could probably transition to using. Although I am a bit worried about that because the sugar content is a bit higher for some reason. Don't know why they've done that. But it could be good. And also have for lunch usually something like noodles and crisps or sandwich and crisps. Something with crisps. I get so many of them. Too many snacks. And for dinner I usually have a full meal. It's usually something with chips, maybe in bread. Depends really. Also some veg on the side like beans or peas and carrots or like the frozen veg that you could put in the microwave. Almost a microwave oven. Like what? It was kind of the 80s. An 80s thing. I don't know. But yeah, and then I have desserts every now and then. I don't have it all the time. I've been having, because I found out they are vegan according to the Tesco site. I can't be 100% sure, but I just had them in the freezer anyway, and I've just been having fruit pastel ice lollies, and they're pretty good. Good taste, good flavour. Bit weird to feel though sometimes. It's a bit too cold and too hard to bite off as well. especially as you get to the wooden stick part. That gets a bit difficult, so you need to navigate it a bit carefully. But it's still hard to do because of the way it's fucking positioned. So there's a bit of an annoyance there. But that's about it in terms of what I eat. Sometimes, very rarely though, I do snack in the evening, but as I said, very rarely. It's not a common occurrence. It's sort of what's going on with my fat? Just went on the one setting. Yeah, I don't really have too much, and then even then my drinks I've pretty much put into, well, gone all into sugar-free, which is fine. But I think the only issue I have with that is it does seem to impact my mood a bit. I've started to get a bit panicky later in the day after having all that. I don't know what the deal is. I'm only having one a day at most. Even then I might have sparkling instead, and that's good still. It's better as a drink. Similar sort of thing really, but without the sweeteners in it. And I'm going to try Drip soon, which is another sort of sparkling drink thing. It's not like Dash I do like, but I do think I need variety, which is kind of the issue. But as far as like sparkling drinks go, you can't really go wrong with them. Yeah, it's fine. I've got Fentimans in the cupboard to use up, I think. I'm not sure if I should save it or not. I was sort of waiting to get a like flask thing, because I want to get a different thing. I've been using like this dragon sculpted mug, but it might be better as a what do you call it? Ornament, I suppose. It'd be better like that, I think, because it's kind of seen as bare days. It's had bits broken off of it every now and then. If you super glue for that, the cup comes out as well, and it keeps trapping liquid inside, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, and 500 millilitres, to be honest, is not enough, because when I have something like a bottled drink, it's hard to sort of pour it out into quantities, and I don't necessarily want it to go flat either, so you know, I just try to have it in big portions. It's a bit annoying to do, but that would help. Yeah. I also have like a tea in the morning or coffee, depending on what I'm planning to have at midday. But I also may have chocolate, but I'll save that for like days where I don't have a chocolate milk situation with it. You gotta remember to keep using the hot chocolate. I've had that for about a year now, I think, and I've not really used much of it. Then again, I could share some of it with the house. That's actually not a bad idea. The only problem is I don't have a suitable container. Maybe I do actually. I have a tin somewhere. There's a Monty Bojangles tin. It's like a chocolate truffle maker thing. And they do some great vegan chocolate. And some of the nicest out there in my opinion. What the fuck was that? Am I hallucinating? I swear I'm like seeing something flying by me. Yeah, I think I'm hallucinating. Nice. And I'm not even sleep deprived. Hence how I was able to do exercise. That's the other thing, scheduling with this exercise and workout. Scheduling, kind of an issue, because I try to exercise every day except FFXW reset days. That's just my chill day. I try to recover and all that time. But for some reason, I don't know what it is, but it's really hard to time doing the weight exercise, because I try to do it every 3 days, but that does bring in complications, like there may be a day that I probably have to skip it because it's either on a really inconvenient time or time off day as well. It can be a thing. Like if I was to do it every scheduled Monday to Sunday, it wouldn't work out. If I was to do it Wednesday to Sunday, it wouldn't work out. But it's too close together. I can't do 2 days, every 2 days, because that's going to kill me. I see that being dangerous, and I need time to recover. And it's literally, I think it's pretty dangerous to do that. So that's a complication. And then the reason why I don't do it on those days is because I'm busy. I could possibly do it Tuesdays, but I just have to get into the mindset of it. And that would sort of work out, because then I could do it Fridays as well? Question mark? I'm not sure actually. a bit of a complicated situation. Thursdays to Sundays, like, yeah. Actually, you know what, that works. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah. It's actually a 3-day gap, so that works out. It's a literal full 72 hours, which I think is like the maximum for muscle recovery, because it needs time to like heal. That's the entire point of muscle workouts. You need to give it time to heal, so it will obviously grow back stronger. That's the entire point of muscles. It's supposed to know your limits and then be able to overcome the limit, which is very interesting. Would you tired? Right, that's good news. Should get a bit of sleep, even though it's still 26 degrees and my room has never gone fucking down. I swear I've never had this room go down further than that. Other than on the heatwave days, I had it on just for like a full 2 hours and it sent my room to about 24, which was weird, even though the heatwave was still there. So I don't know what happened. Like, somehow, I don't know, like something cold touched my aircon or something. Very weird. But yeah, working out during the heatwave and exercise. I seem to be able to. The limit is about 30 degrees. If it's any higher, I probably can't, but I'll try the window seal kit when the temperature goes down and see where it goes from there. It seems possible. I literally just did it with the portable AC on. It certainly can be done without making me sweat, and that's the other thing. I don't really break a sweat. I'm wearing antiperspirant, so obviously I won't have any there, but I would have it elsewhere. I would have it in my hair if it's even a thing. I do have it in my hair when I go on the treadmill, but not really feeling it anywhere else, which is interesting. But during a heat wave, you can do it with portable AC, so I think for anyone who's actually doing like weight training, I can recommend it for sure. It's definitely something that's possible. As I'm saying, got to be good with electricity and not overuse things. I imagine a lot of idiots who have portable ACs probably leave it on the whole time and don't leave it on a timer, which is just ridiculous. And you can get plug adapters that allow it to be used on a timer. So again, it's a lot of things that are just like, oh, God, why? It's just such a clusterfuck, really. Yeah, it makes you wish that humanity could be only reduced to the intelligent bunch, but speaking of which, that's why I'm partly doing the workouts. It's just so I can better help myself, defend myself. In future, maybe a possibility, I'll just try to learn like sort of training and stuff. Self-defense training. I've figured about doing something like a Krav Maga. I can't remember the name of it now. I keep forgetting the name. It's recommended to me as a way to sort of help my anxiety, but I don't 100% know if I want to. It's hard to say. I'm not looking for extremes. I'm not looking to do like fucking karate or kung fu or anything. I just want to learn how to self-defend in these situations. Yeah, I think I'll be fine anyway without, because I have insane reaction times. It's very weird actually, because I can detect when I'm about to sort of lose something from my hand, if it's falling out, and just immediately catch it without being conscious of it. It's so fucking weird. It happens, and even things that are like around me, I can sort of react to that quite quick. There's a bunch of weird things like that. Don't know if it's like dad brain or whatever. But either way, I'm quite happy with this workout. It seems to do it, and as I said, I can only do like one set of each exercise before I'm just exhausted at this moment. In the future, it may be possible to expand, but I'm not kind of that willing to do it, to be honest. The biggest complication is finding the time. Well, anything else, I've had to waste like my gaming time to do this one, which is really annoying, but I think this takes priority, to be honest. But yeah, like gaming time, I do value it, but I don't think it's as valuable as being able to put on muscle and obviously lose a few calories. I think that's far more important. Especially if sort of diet I have anyway. Like, getting those oats can be something. I do have banana syrup, I forgot to say. I have some banana syrup and I'm only really using it for that. I think I would only stick to chocolate milk and peanut butter in the future. I forgot to add that I have that. So bananas and berries and raisins. And milled flaxseed, because I can't digest full flaxseed, which is a really annoying aspect of Crohn's disease. It's quite bad for you, I think, to have whole seeds. I've literally shut them out before, thinking, what the fuck is that? Is that a worm or a slug sticking out on my poo? And that's actually like pumpkin seed. Oh, great. Thanks, Crohn's disease. You really sparked the imagination there. Whatever is coming out of me. Anyway, I better move on. Yeah. So, people are realising climate change is real. Somehow. As if the smoke over New York, the air quality over New York was hazardous enough, coming from Canada. Somehow there's a wildfire in Canada. I don't even know how they managed that, to be honest. Because Canada's usually quite a cold place, so it's hard to even know, really, what happened there. But I'm just so baffled by the fact that it took so long for people to fucking open their eyes. Literally, one of the first posts I saw in Blue Sky and getting on it today was an Instagram post that was shared by I think it's a account I follow called Mr. Spock, or Spock, someone. I can't remember. They definitely have a Star Trek avatar and a name. But it's an Instagram post like this, and literally saying the most, like, the simplest thing you could ever say about this current situation in the world, because it addresses everything. And it's basically someone explaining, whilst walking alongside a great landscape, that we need to protect the Earth, and the elites are trying to kill us. And I think that's very true. Though, I would say that it sounds weird, but it would be preferable if the people who die in this are the completely unintelligent fascists and right-wingers. They'd be the best people to die in this, and billionaires as well, let's be honest. But again, everyone's sort of a target for this, and nobody's immune. And it gets into sort of dangerous territory when you think about it, because we're heading for a crisis where not just like hundreds of thousands could die as a result of climate change, as a result of these fires or air quality or war. It could be millions, and maybe even hundreds of millions, which is fucking massive. To put that into perspective, you need to see the video on a 3D render of what like each amount of people look like compared to, for example, the bigger buildings in the world, and you'll see it firsthand. Also, just reminded me looking at the axolotl game. Sorry for the sidetrack, but I only just remembered that Chansey in Pokemon looks like an axolotl. I think actually Chansey is based on that. I actually encountered my first one the other day. Managed to catch it, got a good amount of XP. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know what to add in terms of this, because it is so bizarre and so frustrating, because it doesn't feel real a lot of the time. Like, a lot of this just feels like shit, because this is a situation we're being plunged into, and instead of the elites actually protecting people who mean well and will do good for the planet, they instead target us for some fucking reason, even though they need us to survive. That's something I can't wrap my head around, honestly. It's still so fucking confusing. So I don't understand where this logic is, and what the logic is for that matter. Because this just doesn't feel real to me. It feels very fucking dystopian and shite, really. It's so disappointing, and I can't begin to comprehend how this even becomes a thing. It's so stupid. It's like, what the hell is going on? I want to know. But yeah, again, only certain people waking up though, but it's not enough. I think we'll only start to realise where we are when it's too late, which is annoying because it's being warned now. It's not a fucking conspiracy as well. I need to mention this because people will say, like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. You're saying the establishment is out to kill us. You don't provide any evidence. Except there is evidence. This is the difference now. Because if it were a conspiracy, it would just be going off your own mind, pulling out of your arse. That's a conspiracy. And believing it's like an ulterior motive to a lot of things, but in reality, what we're actually seeing is literally a genocide on a scale we've never seen, which history won't even let down, because this is frankly absurd. Although the motives may be, in some circumstances, right, because we are overpopulated, that is an inherent fact as well, we have to acknowledge. The way we're going about it is not good. We should have breeding caps, obviously, on people, or just breeding caps, I don't know what to call it, like, basically, no children should be born from this point onwards. I think that goes without saying. It's dangerous, but I think certain countries should do this, especially for the warmer areas. It's not a good place to bring up a child. And the other thing is to get our economic system under control. But the evidence for us, for why they're killing us, is out there. Look at who Trump lobbies with. Look at Israel lobbying with Trump. Look at Putin being behind Trump. Look at the UK being completely corrupted, including some of the people who are running for Prime Minister. Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, to a certain extent Kemi Badenoch, though I can't 100% quote that, and obviously Keir Starmer already corrupted, made Labour into a far-right party, which idiots seem to think is still a left-leaning party, which is not. The evidence is out there, and looking at Israel's genocide, for example, that's one of the proofs. Russia versus Ukraine saw another proof in its own way, and the way that Trump is basically a Russian asset, and the way that Trump's invaded random countries and targeted people for political means, and obviously decided to do it with land and drugs for some reason, but to distract from these issues as well. That's another thing, it's all interconnected. There's so much shit going on. In the UK, the lack of actual sort of help and care for the general population is an all-time low. We're seeing minorities being gutted, even though they'll always exist, even in the world that the elites want, which is fucking dumb. It's not even going to reduce them. But again, this is what we're headed towards. So, yeah. I really think that this is a fucked up situation for sure. I do think there is a case to be made for trying to lower the population, but not in the way that it's being done. Essentially, everybody should die off in some way, not a war, not anything that results in instant death or suffering to death. It should just happen naturally. As we move forward, whilst we transition and try to fix things for any future kids, any kids on other countries that wouldn't have a child cap limit. It's quite obvious as well, because you also see proof where certain families don't get certain benefits because of the way that it's well, there's so many children in the world at the moment. I know in the UK they've stopped, I think, child benefits for anyone with a family over 2, which is fucking insane, because some people have more than 2 kids, even though they shouldn't. It's just worth noting that, because I think it's important. It's a bit fucked up, really, because that's not going to do anything. Their intent is to starve children to death, say it for what it is. And they think that people can magically make the money to feed them, to bathe them, to get them to doctor's appointments and shit. That's not possible. Again, it's just trying to undercut everyone, and the way that obviously the elites are going about it is just horrible. It's just causing people to suffer in the end, and it's not good. But yeah, either way, it's good to see that people are somewhat waking up. Well, and not always, it doesn't seem. I think there are still people who would even deny this despite the evidence, but it's a very real thing, and I advise people start to look into further protections and also try to get the upper hand, because I think this is one of the best ways we can counter these issues. We are literally heading for something worse, and the civil war is natural disasters, it's the elites running everything, it's a lot of different things, and it's so fucking dystopian. We need to address it because it is frankly absurd. Yeah, I don't know what else to add, to be honest. I've pretty much talked about everything. Hopefully people take it on board, because this is one of the most important issues in history now. We're experiencing something completely unprecedented with everything going on around the world. War, climate change, corruption, more corruption, even probably an increase in crime, and obviously the far right and fascism. It's beyond comprehension at this point. So I think it's really important that we actually do this, and we actually do something good for once. And we also try to control things the way they should be controlled in these cases. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know what else to add, so let's move on. So, whilst I'm not a climate scientist, there is another thing to point towards: the somewhat inevitable catastrophe of what we're seeing at the moment with extreme temperatures, heat domes, and also there's going to be droughts and then food shortages. And people again keep saying it's a cycle, it's the way it's supposed to be, it's like we're coming out of an ice age. But again, they ignore the fact that it's not supposed to be this quickly, because all observable science has basically found that we cannot sustain a world where climate change is speeding up the ice age, and we may even become extinct as a result of it. But there's this chart about this, essentially, well, not really a chart, actually it's a map. It's an animation of 100 years of average June temperatures, although it's technically 80 because it only goes to 1940. But you see the slow climb, like from the 40s to the 70s it's quite neutral. There's like barely anything going on, and then after the 70s it starts to climb a bit, which is not surprising really. Ironically, the generation of old people that tell us that we're not working hard enough, it shows how bad it went. You can see it getting bad in Russia and stuff, and over the Europe. And then somehow from the 2000s we see a climb again, a really big one, and then 2020 onwards is just fucking nightmarish. We're seeing places that shouldn't be warm become extremely warm in terms of the temperature anomaly. That was even like 1976, because that should be like warmer. There's a bit there, I saw a brief glimpse on the UK. But yeah, like looking at the UK specifically, you just see how it goes from like blue to white to orange essentially in the temperature anomalies, and it's like a difference of a few degrees. People will think like, well, what's the problem then? Why is that even a problem? Because you might think, like, what is the issue here? Because there's only a few degrees. It's an issue because it affects everyone and everything. As I said, it causes droughts, it causes like food shortages, it causes ecosystem collapse. These are the problems we face in this, because that's what happens when you speed up the climate. You have such a drastic effect on it. Got so many problems in like the US as well. Looking at the spots on there, every single year it seems to have gone up. It's dangerous as fuck. It really goes to show. Obviously with all these wildfires happening as well, you have to remember air quality goes down, and so we can't sustain that either. People are going to start developing new issues. We're going to discover ones that maybe we didn't even know about. It's always a possibility, especially when we still have zoonotic viruses around and stuff, and who knows if they can interact or not. I hope not, because that'd be nightmarish. And then it's still got the scary possibility, and I remember from something like The Last of Us, where there's even like a chance of like a fungal virus. If that can even become a thing, and then God knows what happens if that ever happens. Well, zombie apocalypse, obviously. But apparently it's like, I remember hearing something about that show a while ago about it being based in strong evidence, and it's like one of the scariest things that scientists would have to deal with is like a fungal virus, because that's gonna be pretty much untreatable. It's a terrifying thing because it just gets out of control. So yeah, we're getting absolutely fucked. And again, I have to point to the fact that people shouldn't just be acting like we're panicking at the moment. We should be acting like everyone who's against us is criminals and murderers. That's literally what it is at this point. Because this is what's happening in the world. We cannot ignore this for much longer. And it's going to absolutely bite us in the arse again and again each year that goes by. And we'll see more temperature anomalies, worse ones. We'll see it in the probably tens of degrees at that point, which is really bad for the state of food. And God knows what we can even grow in that state, because as it goes, you know, a temperature anomaly, it means things will get warmer and things will get colder as well. So we have no stable climate unless you grow indoors, but growing indoors requires energy, and we can't necessarily get energy in those colder climates, and it's just like, well, what's the fucking point? You know, if we're constantly under thunderstorms and rainstorms and flooding because of all this, because it all acts differently depending on the areas as well, we're just going to get absolutely fucked over. Again, it's going to damage our food systems, and you know, if you're in your 60s or 70s or anything, or even just 40s, and you don't give a shit about this, just fucking die. That's my advice. Like, you people are fucking cancer. Because what you've grown up knowing isn't necessarily the right thing. I had to learn this the hard way, and I'm 29. But you have to realise that the world doesn't revolve around you. That's pretty much the thing for starters. The second thing is, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong. The third thing is, you're the proprietors of this misinformation. You literally push it forward, you convince other people, you tell your grandchildren, you tell your children about it, and you cause this problem. So again, when I said before about treating people like they're murderers, I literally mean it. Do what they do in America, essentially. Might end out in a shootout, but who the fuck cares? We're heading for disaster because of these people. And coinciding with them, I don't think it's even viable at this point. It's a question I've legit started to have. Because as much as I want to prevent as many people dying as possible, the ones causing this are the ones who should be dead. It's a no fucking brainer. It's a sad reality, and people will be like, oh, you've got to say that, you can't do that. You have to fucking now, because law doesn't apply to anything when the earth's on fire, when society is on collapse. It doesn't matter anymore. The good days are gone, and that's because of these people. The less of them we have, obviously, the better. So these are fucking ideologies that fuck us over. Kill us. That really cannot be ignored. But even then, it's just the people who are like my age who do the same thing. Like, people should know whose side they're on. It's like really important. It's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Speaking of like societal collapse, there's a Tommy Robinson post from a while ago, I think. HYPERSKY saying pride is a protest, and there's a lot to protest, and quotes an independent article. And Toyota wasn't saying it's about seducing children, going on for the dicks and breasts, it's not about protest, it's industrial scale. I think I've actually responded to this before. In fact, this like surfing again is really weird. But it's just fucking false information everywhere. Because if it's about seducing children, address your fan base because they're the one who do it. They're the ones who do this shit a lot. So that's already off to a great start. Cutting off dicks and breasts, there's no proof of that. I failed to see any proof of that. I'm happy to see if there is any, but again, it's sort of hard to prove, and it's also one of those things where you can't necessarily just ask a child, like, show me your. Yeah, exactly, you can't. They're saying it's not a protest, an industrial scale child mutilation, chemical castration, not soon. No, none of that is true. Again, you've not done the research, you're just going off assumptions, you pulled this out your arse, and that's not evidence. Whereas evidence, I can actually prove that in those processes, whether it's a child coming out as gay, lesbian, or even asexual, it's very much not sexually charged unless otherwise. And unless there's an important thing there, because it can happen. I happen to be one of those children. Admittedly, I wasn't gay, but bisexual. Chemical castration, mutilation, no such thing. Again, evidence to point to transitions involving puberty blockers, and that's hardly chemical castration. It allows them to develop once they're off the puberty blockers. Mutilation, again, no such thing. Like, where are you getting this information from? It's pretty much illegal to do that. And if they were doing it, I'd sure have to question the process. Because I'm concerned about that myself. Yeah, again, this is what I mean. People like this are the problem. Because they spread misinformation, they don't care about the facts, and they're biased towards another side, and it's just an absolute load of bullshit. It's just so fucking bad. But we are in literal panic mode. We're just seeing the world just fall apart before us. Just fucking ridiculous. I don't really get it. Anyway, I don't think I've got anything else to add. So yeah, let's move on. So, I found this interesting, but I think it's worth sort of talking about. I think it's kind of like a sort of breakthrough in terms of how I'm making music at the moment. I've already sort of figured things out, like playing riffs over in pieces and then cutting them, splicing them obviously, and that's a pretty easy trick to do. But there's another trick, because I wondered about harmonies, and if I use a track of MIDI, I could just copy the MIDI into the guitar VSTs and still reuse them. So I'm still getting my money's worth, but it doesn't affect the recording at all. Which is very interesting, because, you know, even though it's clearer quality when you have to play leads, I'm recording this one entirely, by the way. It's quite interesting, and, you know, it works. So that even like cuts the time in half, and I've already recorded like the cover bits I'm already working on. I've already recorded some of the main bits for my original song. It's so interesting to look at, because all this time I assumed that it was going to be a slog to get through and make it shorten at the time that I had to spend on this. But it is kind of easy when you know what to look out for, so if there's parts you can't really play that easily, you know, you just, you know, make that a thing. You use a VST to do like the harmonies, and it saves a lot of time, and it just works as effectively as if you were playing as well. Because the lead is there to set the tone. It's got obviously like the scrapes and stuff, as I've got back to talk about. It does work, which is crazy. I wonder if I could play it. I can't remember the track now for some reason.
think I remember now. I can't remember now. There we go. Might be familiar to some people who are in the meme space. Yeah, I'm literally playing that. It's also really difficult because it is technically a jazz track. Based on, obviously, what it is based on. Yeah, I just wanted to let people know I'm getting on with this now, and it actually seems a bit better than the normal stuff, because before it was like a borrow of timing. I still have that, to be fair. But the main issue was being able to get it to sound as good as the VST, and with Amplitude, thankfully, I think that has helped it. And on top of that, it's also just got more freedom. Like I could do proper slides now that are just stock sounds, and I could do different things with that as well. And you know, I could do crazy things like play like really high bend note or high E bit here. But I mean, either standard, stupidly, I didn't tune it properly for some dumb reason, but it works for the original, which is why it's tuned to E flat. But yeah, it's very interesting. Again, a learning experience, and I think I am learning things about this, like how to properly do it and stuff. And again, it might turn out well, it might not turn out well. It really depends. I think it's very subjective at this point, and I think I will get people who say, like, oh God, you're playing shit. What tough? Like people were saying, record this, and I did. I'm recording it. And you can't expect me to just suddenly be able to be a guitar god after recording it. For like what? I'm on my third day now, I think, or is it fourth day? Maybe fourth day actually, of recording this entire thing. And you know, I'm doing fine. I'm on the chorus rhythm now, but I need to make a new one for the next repeat of the track. And then I need to make a bridge, and then a solo or breakdown into solo maybe. There's things to consider here. So I've got things to think about, and then I've got a key change, which will be very interesting because I have to do it like a 3 notes up or a step and a half. It's usually what I do. Yeah, I can do it. It's possible, but it's very rare I do it in one take. As you can see, I can hesitate when I even play it. But that's how I sort of fix it. I realise a mistake and I quickly go to it. But I get distracted as well with music and sounds playing in the background, so it's really hard to play at times. Because I just need to properly hear my tracks, as it currently stands. Like the rhythms are like this sort of shape. Not exactly, I can't remember how I did it now. And then it's something else. I did this actually, or this. I meant to do this, I think, after, but I completely forgot to do that. I might have to fix that. It's got an interesting sort of shape, but the bass doesn't follow any sort of key, it's just walking bass. So it's, again, a learning experience. And yeah, and also I could play Dr. Wily's Castle. I learned this ages ago. Yeah, I still know it from Rocksmith. And there's like that other bit. Yeah, still got it, I think. It's very interesting. Anyway, that's all I got. So that'll be easy to record when I get around to it, except for the rhythms. I sort of dread it, but at the same time it's kind of easy to do anyway. These are the sort of calls I'm doing. yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Well, it's happening again. It seems like nobody can actually respond to Gary Economics. Again, I just wanted to mention this because I've seen a few interviews and it's very much the case where nobody can actually prove that he's actually in the wrong for wanting a wealth tax. Where someone like myself would be easily convinced, and I think Gary should even be asking for solid evidence for this, like a study, to actually show that, well, it doesn't work for starters, if that's one of the complaints, but also if it affects them, like the billionaires. And as I've seen in a other video where someone literally went to a tennis court or something and filled some balls with like tiny other balls and presented it as, well, this is the wealth tax, these tiny balls in here is how much you're giving away, and it's such a minuscule amount. It's a good way to portray it, because I think that's exactly how it should be. But again, people aren't arguing against this in good faith, and the response, as usual, it's the same thing over and over again. It's always, oh, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to remove my assets because you're introducing a wealth tax that barely impacts me, although they don't say that last bit because they're dishonest. And it's not a good faith argument, it's bad faith. So it gets to ridiculous levels of bullshit when you really look at it, and also where these people come from. Because they haven't had to work a hard day in their lives. You know, they're not going out to fucking war and, you know, doing those jobs. And I think they should. If they've inherited that wealth, they need to fucking be putting their life on the line, essentially. Because that's what someone should do with all that money. Literally. But they're not. They're doing the cowardly thing. They're staying back, telling people they're wrong. And for some reason they're always somehow in the know about us, like the working class, poor people, the middle class. And yet, they've not lived that in their lives at all. Which again, just furthers the point that it's a bad faith argument. If they're commenting on what we should do, then they are clearly in the wrong, because they've not lived through our situations. There's no empathy there, and you need empathy to understand people, to understand an argument. And it's one of the easiest ways to do that. So again, they failed. Every single time I see it mentioned, it shows how right it is every time. They just cannot make a point. It's ridiculous. And so nothing will change. It's absolutely stupid. And again, I can only hope in the future that we start to see some people changing, and even people in those groups potentially spreading the right information. But until we see a case where they're no longer going out for dinner with their boyfriend Donald Trump, or boyfriends as well, because it's obviously more like Keir Starmer and whoever, but as long as they're not going out with them, you know, I think we're in a good place. But it doesn't mean they're still good, it doesn't mean that they're fine, because it can still cause issues. But again, we're seeing severe crisis as a result of these people, these billionaires who do not have a clue what we're going through, who don't seem to give a shit about what we're going through, and are probably told even by yes men, because they suck up to these people, but they're being told by yes men to just keep doing what they're doing. And it doesn't surprise me, and then when you hang around with the same sorts of fucking people and get influenced by them, you start to become corrupt. And yes, it affects billionaires. It's not just government, it's literally billionaires as well. And this is why all these problems begin. So again, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. I cannot fathom the fucking idea. It's so absurd. Yeah, I don't really have anything else around, I don't think. You know, I just think this is worth mentioning again, just in case people are new here or maybe aren't familiar with the situation.
we absolutely need a wealth tax to redistribute the economy. Because at the moment, holding all their money, and they failed. Might as well worth mention this. They hold all this money and do nothing with it. So what gives? That is the question here. Because any rational person would do something with that money. Save it, maybe, but for sure they would invest. And they're still in a greedy way, but just invest. As far as I know, the only things they'll do with that money. They can give us better services, they can give us a better world, a better situation. It's absolutely ridiculous that we don't have that at the moment. They could do so much with that money. It's not about thinking, oh, we just want a selfish situation where they just buy us Lamborghinis or something. No, it's nothing like that. This is what I mean by connecting with empathy. You need to understand what the situation is for the people right at the bottom. They're either homeless on the streets already, or starved to death, which is another thing, because we may not even know they exist. But another issue is those that are in a home currently with families that are trying to get by, they suffer severely. They have to make sacrifices. They are homeless as well. Again, it's such a big issue. But this is what empathy is for. Is to see their situation for what it is, and if you can, you should provide the money for it. In fact, I would be wholeheartedly against a wealth tax if there was a law that specifically said that if they don't want to contribute to a wealth tax, they must then invest a portion of that money somewhere to benefit the communities, to benefit the government, and it's of their choice as well. So they can donate to something like a charity, they can donate to the health service, they can donate to somewhere else. It's not the best option for sure, because it could mean privatisation and then more profit and a monopoly. But we should have laws in place to stop that, to stop mergers, to stop handing off ownership like that. Like ownership, there should be a limit as well. So people who are extremely rich should not have multiple things under their wing. And nobody should, because that's just ridiculous. The fact that a normal person in daily life can't even own a luxury, like single luxury, is just absolutely absurd. And a luxury I would consider something like a really expensive phone, computer, even a house. And not even just like an expensive house, just a normal basic house to function and live in. And then there's other things as well, like owning a bit of land. That's something basic that some people want and do need in some cases. It's very much necessary. So yeah, again, there needs to be an option to be able to redistribute the wealth in another way, if not tax, then something else. Like, you have to put caps on the employees and stuff, you have to agree with one of the other things, so that they can actually get things done and help society. And then I have to pose the question, it's like, what's wrong with helping people? That is a question I have to ask a lot, because even myself, even though I've got barely anything to give, I do ask myself every now and then, like, what's the point in helping people sometimes? And the point is, I don't want to be worse off than them. That's why. If you're a billionaire, you should be thinking that all the fucking time, but billions fold. Literally. Because there are so many people affected by this. It's exactly what I mean with empathy. It is the greatest tool to figure these things out. So yeah, it's just frankly absurd. So I don't know what else to add, to be honest. I pretty much talked about it, talked about everything here I could, but hopefully people take it on board in terms of, hopefully a billionaire even hears us. That's the best thing you can do with your money, and it's not my place to tell you what to do, I'm just suggesting. And that really is an option. But I think you should be wiser with your money, because this is affecting everyone. on every level, including yourself, because it does creep up on you. These people, the same people, are the ones fighting your wars, making your water, making your food, among other things, teaching your children. They're the ones being affected. It really does come back and bite you. And you're going to see the consequences of that like later rather than sooner, because that's how long it takes for things to take effect, and we are seeing it. This started all the way back in 2016 as far as I know, and it's been worsening ever since. We've seen a crisis where greed and just absolute, I'm not sure what to call it, like savagery, not sure if that's the term, but we're seeing everything being gutted, and it's going to get worse. So we must do something. And billionaires themselves, millionaires, whoever it is, trillionaire, even has to do something about this. Because this cannot sustain, we cannot sustain this current society the way things are going. Otherwise many will die, and again it will gut you, because that's what happens. You lose everything. That's a foundation for the reason you're here now. And you're going for yourself to blame. I've already seen this happen. I'm seeing it happen at the moment, actually. I've warned people about climate change years ago, back in 2016, and they choose not to believe it. And then what do you look? What do you see now? Like wildfires, heat waves, heat anomalies, heat domes, more natural disasters than we've ever known. Again, this is the issue. You invest money back into the people, or you get fucked. Those are the only options. Get fucked, or give money to the people and stay comfortable. To me, it's a no-brainer. Anyway, that's about it, so let's move on. So there is one thing I'm wondering about recording all this music, and that is, can I make my own VST or audio library? The thought come about because of me being so used to writing tracks with, obviously, well, you know, stuff. Maybe not actually, but I suppose it is like a debate in a sense. Because even then, I still argue against it. This is the interesting thing. I literally just remembered this. I had thought about this before. It just came back to me. But as I said, I thought about making a VST with just me playing the notes the way that they're supposed to, and obviously it's a bit different when it comes to like a rhythm, for example, but because you need different notes on the rhythms, that's why. But leads and stuff, you don't exactly need to have 2 tracks, you just need the one, and it just works. But what I find interesting is I don't exactly need to just play it again and again. If anything, lead has more of a justification to make a VST for rather than rhythms. But even then, the leads, I'd have to make things like, I'd call them accents, but I don't know if that's the correct term. I'd have to make slides and harmonics as it would go along with it. And you know, it's possible. I think it'd be good. I think that could work out. But there is one issue, and I think this one is kind of important. It doesn't contribute to my experience as a guitarist. And that's something I'm realising as I'm recording all this. Because even though it's more possible now than it has been ever before, the thing is with my experience as a guitarist is I've been playing for over 12 years now, I think. Since like Rocksmith 2014 at least. And I think that was maybe even 2015 that I started. But I've been playing for that long. And what occurred to me with that is I would prefer if I just know the riffs. As I said, I could just pick up my guitar and play the recent track that I've got right here, and I'm pretty sure I remember the notes. No, I don't. Yeah, so like, that's the benefit of it. And even the tracks from long ago, which I've learned, still remain in my memory. And that's one of the benefits of it. I can play Dr. Waller's Castle. It's a really good track, and I was fucking play and speak at the same time. The point is I still remember it. And that's what you get from it. Immediately I would probably still do like a... I wouldn't do a music video even though it does get more views, but I think it could be an occasional thing potentially. If it's like a really special cover like Dr. Wily's Castle, maybe. I might just go ahead and play just on video. But I think that there is a benefit to just playing it, and it is the experience. And as I gain more experience, it becomes easier to play. Whereas if I were to do just an old VST trick, it may not result in anything good. And admittedly I could justify it for the harmonies, that's fine. I think the harmonies are a bit hard to figure out at the moment, and there's good help anyway. But I do really think this, I don't think there's any point to making a lead VST, even though it will save time. But you don't get the experience of having learned the tracks. So that's another thing, and the same with the rhythms and stuff, and the rhythms are always a unique composition in a lot of ways for the covers. And same obviously for the originals, although you know you can only play like 12 notes technically, so you never actually have the advantage of like, is it 12 notes? Am I misremembering? Hang on. That's why I'm doubting myself here, I'm gaslighting myself. How is there 12 music notes? Yeah, just the advantage of learning scales and stuff. Yeah, 12 notes, okay. Because I was thinking like, why does it go from 0 to 12? When, yeah, it's 1, 2, wait, is it? I don't know, like, again I feel like I'm gaslighting myself. All notes, music, because you've got the sharps and stuff. Yeah, I'm dumb, I don't know. But again, learning is just better. This isn't all the notes, it's the flat notes. Not flat, whole notes or major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, 12. I don't know. How does it fucking work then? If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That doesn't make sense. Does it? No, of course, because it'd end on an even number if it was like, yeah. I think I got it now. There's some reason it's just counting is a bit confusing for some reason. Yeah, again, experience is probably better to have here, because it just gives you more things to prove for yourself. And admittedly, I'm not doing it to show off at all. In fact, you'll see a splicing nightmare if you ever actually looked at my tracks that I've recorded. It is all splicing, pretty much. There's rarely ever anything I don't splice it, and that's probably a part of the experience, again, learning it and stuff. But it's far better to learn, as I did there on that track. I've learned Dr. Wily's Castle from Rocksmith. So how I know it so well, it's just muscle memory to me. I played it over like 16 times I think for the lead, and quite a few times on the bass as well. Sort of remember the bass, because the bass is just so fucking good on that. It's one of the best bass lines in a Mega Man track, I think. And also just in general for gaming music. I'm just saying something, because there are some great bass tracks out there. Just so unique. Although technically it's sort of a rhythm as well. Also, like, I'm curious, I might put on the cover again, because I had it in Tux Guitar. Did I do the rhythm as the bass? I did like galloping on it. I think that's one thing I could improve actually, I'll write that down. Because I might reference the rhythm bit after doing like a chord. Rhythms reference the OG bass line. Yeah, as I said, it's a great learning experience, and even then the justification of trying to make it a VST just doesn't work, because you don't get the experience of playing it, being able to play it off by heart. And on top of that, with this track, I wasn't sure how I was going to go about it, because it doesn't seem like the sort of track, given this is another Pokemon track, I guessed. I wasn't sure how it would work out because my other Pokemon tracks turned out like shit with the VSTs. But these feel more natural, they feel like they're actually doing something. And the lead sounds really good, which is different because I couldn't do that on the VSTs. They just refused to work, and on top of that, the VSTs seem to have an issue with pick attack and the buy-in stuff not working properly, even though I've set them to high and even then changed the things with automation. It's very weird. It's an interesting situation though. And I can't wait to get my new 8-string guitar, which I'll do a lot of the recording on, and also I'll switch between like the 2 different guitars. So I'll do one for lead and one for obviously the rhythm, which will be the chords. But that's when I get my Servitude. The Servitude will be for leads specifically because it's a very special guitar to me. Well, guitar for me. Again, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting over, I think, almost 2 years now because there was a fuck up with that, sadly, and it does make me sadly not like the company as much as I used to. Mainly I expected a really good experience, and instead it's been a slight nightmare. I hate to say, they make extremely good guitars from what I've seen, just visually and mechanically, but this is just like, yeah, it's not up to snuff, and I think they do need to rework a lot of their technical systems because they've really fucked it up, and then part of it is my issue too. I decided I didn't want a standard guitar. I wanted a fanfare in the end, which is probably better in the long run because it lasts longer, and also people would also want that. 7-string guitars are very popular, and I'm ready for an 8-string. I think I'm not really that afraid of it as far as it goes. And I've also played a 6-string bass, and that's basically the same as an 8-string guitar in terms of length and scale. Or rather width and scale, it's more like it. Anyway, that's about it, so let's move on. Oh, kind of overdue an update on this, I think. It's been a while, I haven't forgotten about it, it's just I didn't really know what to say. I did a mini update, I think, before, but I haven't done one about this full experience. So I'm talking about my Herman Aeron. I believe it's the 3 variant, can't remember. It's weird, but it's still decent. Because I think I got up my rating from bad to decent just based on the perspective that I've gotten more used to it. There certainly seems to be a lot more good things about it now. So my back has been pretty good. I did have back pain, I think, like a month or 2. No, I've had back pain twice, I think. So something slid in my back, and I don't know what the fuck it was, whether it was a disc or what, but it only lasted a few days. It's just such an interesting experience being in this, to have this issue. I think that there is definitely something to be said about it, like, what did I say? I just can't find many issues now. I still find the legroom a bit of an issue. I think I can't really spread it still. It's a bit annoying because I'm used to spreading because of my fucking massive ass thighs. I don't know why I've got such big thighs. I think it's just muscle. Because whenever I stand up, it doesn't jiggle. What more proof do I need? And I guess, you know, comfort-wise, it feels like I'm sitting on air. It just feels very soft. It's more soft than a lot of the cushions, actually, to be fair. But I've never felt it feel hard, which is something that no other chair I can attest to. It literally is just a better option for comfort, which is weird because it really shouldn't be, based on what I initially had, but I definitely settled into it. There is a bit of a teething issue with this, I suppose. I don't know what to call it. so that impacts it a bit. The arms do get in the way still. I noticed it more on my X guitar rather than the others, but I can sort of get around it a bit. It depends on the position, obviously. I think if I rotate myself a bit to the right, left, I mean, then it sort of sits perfectly against me like a guitar should, which is fine, I suppose. And also, sort of tilting thing. The tilting thing, I can't really get used to it. I'll figure out what the things do eventually, but the tilting I can't get used to because there's only 3 settings. One of them is too far fucking back, one of them is slightly too far back, and the other is too far forward. I hate how there's a lack of adjustment on these and a lack of settings. It's a bit stupid for a chair of this price. You would have thought they would have put more effort into it, but I don't want to be laying all the way back when I'm in my chair. But this current position is fine. It just means that my legs are a bit kind of on the floor, not on the floor actually, just a bit dangly, which I shouldn't be doing because I'm not even like short. So yeah, I'll turn about 5'8", 5'10", around that amount. I'm not like massively tall. I just about hit like certain doorways, but only if I tiptoe, I think. But it's like really tiptoe, I mean. So yeah, it is a bit of an issue still. I find again the seeing is a bit weird. What else? At the back, the lumbar is really good still. I did manage to break it off, I think, accidentally, and I managed to fix it somehow. Very quickly afterwards, luckily. And it's not really caused me any issues, and I can push back on it now, and it's good support. It still works, which is good. I'll just sniff my finger. Don't ask me why. Yeah, I haven't really used the height adjustment much at all, or at all really. I just haven't used it. I maybe should do something with it again. I don't know. If I do my leg sort of stimming, it doesn't really hit. So if I adjust it a little, it might be better, but I don't like how it sort of bends me like forward on the seat, so it's a bit strange. I'm not sure about it. Because I'm also like, with enough, I have a trust issue with this chair. Because the mesh, as I'll talk about now, is probably the bigger thing to talk about, because it's the reason I got it. It's more to do with the mesh and the durability, and the mesh does feel like it's flexing a lot more. I don't know if that's because I put on weight, even though I'm still about 140 kilograms, 135. The back one doesn't flex at all, but the bottom one does, for sure. And if I get off it, like, how bad is it? Oh yeah, it's not too bad actually. Yeah, but it takes some adjusting, for sure. And the teething pains, as I mentioned, is to do with the frame digging into you. It does seem to have stopped. One of the other issues I discovered is I can't cross my legs on this. It's a bit annoying, because I'm used to doing that, but I suppose it's a good habit not to an extent. Yeah, it's very strange. Very strange chair, but the most important thing, the reason I got this, it was to get better air, as in when I'm sitting. Because one of my biggest fucking pet peeves in the summer was when I was sitting down on a chair, and with ulcerative colitis it's a nightmare. But when I'm having a flare up and it makes noise, not noises, well, can do, but smells. When it makes those fucking smells, it is a pain in the arse. Like, seriously, a big pain. And when that's happening when I have a flare up, I just don't want to fucking deal with that. It's gross. So it's like very weird in that sense. But yeah, like, it works. It cools me down, it doesn't trap sweat. My room has gone up to the highest of 29 degrees to about 30 when I've been sitting on this, and it hasn't been too bad, surprisingly. I would have expected a lot worse for some reason, but it actually has done fine. The mesh works, it does cool you down. I I can say that with certainty, and I don't feel any warmth when I get up. Which also is just a change, because I would have thought with the mesh the way it's designed, surely it would have warmed me up, but it doesn't. Yeah, my arse crack feels cold, and that's it. Everything else feels cold, to be fair. But that's a testament to how well the mesh is and how well it's designed, but I do feel like I could have gotten more from a different brand of chair. Including like the arms, which are still the biggest issue of this, I think, and also then the frame. The frame is still the thing that gets in the way. That's part of the seat as well. Pushing it around, putting it around, it's lasted. It's on a wooden floor though, so I can't tell you how it goes on a carpet. But I've been able to move it around very easily, and it's quite a lot better to move around, although it has left me with limited space, so you know, if I need to get past my chair or get into it somehow, I don't have too much space here, and I've got about, let's see, my keyboard was about 50, so about 100 centimetres of space, and the chair is about, I think, 60 in terms of length where you're sitting. So it's quite a lot. Got a lot of space it takes up. But yeah, I can't really complain too much about the mesh. It's just fine. If you could get a chair like this without the fucking arms, I'd have to look into getting rid of the arms on this, I think. Because it does bother me so fucking much. I don't know exactly a way how to. Like it just attaches to the back here or something. Like a slide. And somehow it stood, even with me like putting weight on it and stuff. And even me trying to break the arms off, like pulling it, it doesn't come off. So it's really stable somehow. I don't know how they've done that other than it being a metal frame. Which is the reason why it's probably gonna last. Which is a good thing, because it also confirms a bit of durability. But most chairs by this point would be probably having squeaky issues and stuff, and that's the other thing I forget about that, squeaking. No squeak. I just got up on off it. But there's none at all. Which is such a big difference, because I'm so used to chairs squeaking after a certain amount of time. And I'm quite happy with that. I will say it's still a very controversial purchase for myself, but I can up it at least to a decent chair. But that's about the maximum I'd go, because there isn't too much else to say about it. It's still a bit weird, I've got to admit. And yeah, like, also this took out a bunch of money that I could have used to buy a computer and a fucking guitar. It certainly made me think and stuff. Not the most optimal situation, especially paying for it. I think they need to do finance options. It's just so fucking ridiculous. Sorry, I just saw an emotional part on a One Piece Reddit showing the fucking Egghead Island part where Dr. Vegapunk is about to do something big. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil the rest because it's just such a good fucking story. Some of the best storytelling in the world, I think. Hands down, I've never cried this much about a fucking show before. But anyway, as for smells, I suppose smell is a thing. All the senses matter here. Like, feel is fine. Smell, I don't smell anything. I haven't obviously sniffed the seat, although I will say there's a part of me that's unsure. I'm not sure if it's because I have the window open or what, but I swear I do smell sort of ulcerative colitis secretions, or whatever you call that, or sweat. But I don't know. It's hard to say because I live next to a shithole. Literally, not essentially. It literally is a shithole. And that might make it worse, and I don't know. It's hard to say. Moisturize as well is fine. I haven't noticed it being that bad. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about the chair. Again, I can just live on it, really. It's just a shame I can't turn it into like a fucking hammock, because you need that in the summer, like Jesus. It's really important. Yeah. Anyway, that's about it for this. Let's move on. can't remember if I said or even talked about it before, but this controversy in Deltarune community. Yep, sadly we're going there. It's gotten a lot of attention recently, and I did make something about it, but I may have not included it in the podcast because I just felt it's a bit awkward as well and not exactly a good thing to address. I might have included it. It's obviously about the Ralsei trans theory. But it wasn't about the theory, it's about the reaction. And it's just insane. The reaction just was unjustified. Because a lot of it is down to people obsessing over the fact that Ralsei in Deltarune, who's a character by the way, can be trans and is seen as trans because of the dress apparently, and that's it really. There isn't too much proof from what I've seen. But then you've got the other side saying, no, absolutely not. Like Ralsei can be trans, so they cannot be. But let's look it up, Ralsei, Deltarune wiki. Because this will confirm details. Let's see if it's gone through some instances, and it's also 3 days ago. Pronouns he, him primarily, and they, them in the dark defined title. Okay, so already we've got this. And it's from chapter 5, as updated 3 days ago, as I said. Ralsei without glasses, eyelashes, like some he-hims wear eyelashes, either because they're in drag or because they just feel like that's a preference. Oh my god, the princessing up. Sprite is so fucking cute. Saving. But yeah, like, the proof here is pretty objective, I'd say. It isn't really... There isn't really anything to debate. Like, but she... If I type she, is like, okay, a few entries, but obviously it's going to be something else. Who else is she? This is Susie most of the time. Yeah, again, all the entries are for Susie. And the they them thing, like, you can give or take, but that means that Ralsei is it bigender or non-binary? I think non-binary is probably the better one. So like, there's no mention of it here. Like non-binary, binary, nothing, male, boy. What's this called? Boy a lot. Yeah, like, again, there's not really anything here. Just doing the Control F option, and yeah, you don't need AI, by the way. You can do this. It's entirely an option. But I don't see anything. There isn't really anything there that's suggesting that Ralsei can be trans. If not, like, trans non-binary as well. Except for, obviously, just having like eyelashes, as is noted, and being comfortable to wear a dress. And it'd be interesting if we do get to see, as we roll in, obviously, the overworld, because that will reveal some more details, which I think are important to the conversation. But as for the reaction, again, I feel it's a bit stupid, and there was this post on our social Ralsei which got locked, thankfully. But it's so weird, and this subreddit was also turned into a very sort of pro-Ralsei subreddit, which is kind of disappointing because it shouldn't be. And that's the name they've come up with, Ralsei. But this post says, God, people hate trans Ralsei theory online. Especially on Reddit, everywhere I go I see people making strawman after strawman about forcing others to misgender Ralsei, or saying they're tired of seeing a discourse about it and downvoting everything that talks about it in a neutral to positive light. I haven't seen a single example of anyone forcing someone else to use she, her pronouns, or even anyone being toxic about it to others who disagree with the theory. I mean, it's over the wokest, most transgender-loving Deltarune heads out there, and even they don't act like how r/when says Ralsei others do. What's worse is that people who hate Ralsei or even sort of reacting to non-objective information, like the menu they them in Ralsei. I bring up that in response to someone saying that Ralsei has only ever been referred to as male, just as a quick objective correction, speaking completely neutrally about the theory, and about people flip out and start throwing everything they can to say why it's not valid or true, all while downvoting to push it down. I'm starting to think people just don't like the idea of a character becoming trans. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's very weird, and I think this depends on what you're finding here, obviously, because I remember looking at some of the posts, and I'll look at some of the comments here, the controversial ones probably. That's what it's going to be. Although it's probably been cleaned up on the mods, to be fair, because it's against the rules. But I couldn't really see people disliking the transgender Ralsei argument anyway on the Deltarune subreddit where they addressed that. And if they were, then obviously it's a problem, because that is just shite. It's shit behaviour to just hate a character for even being suggested trans. And I consider myself, I identify rather, because, sort of my loopholes a way to at least show support for trans people and be different, but I am trans non-binary, I suppose. I'm not making the effort to do the appearance, but the point is, I want people to shut the fuck up about this, because there's nothing controversial about being trans, and also you should just be comfortable with whatever you have. If anything, the most non-binary thing I do is probably using feminine spells to use in the bath, the shower, and other things like that, where things commonly associated with feminism. I'm kind of a soft person anyway, so non-binary is just sort of a logical choice from that perspective. And nothing to do with gender roles, it's just, I think I am pretty feminine and quite emotional, so that adds to it. With that said, I do think in these theories it's kind of like, it does get toxic because this is what the fan base is like. And it doesn't do any good. So I think it's ridiculous, and I think the post is kind of right about this. There is obviously proof that Ralsei can be using they them pronouns and is potentially non-binary as a result, but also happy to use he him, and that's fine. And in fact, I don't know if we actually have, other than Chris, a non-binary character in Deltarune. I was assuming Chris was non-binary. I could just check Chris Deltarune. Wiki. Was it Wiki? The house sources for they them. Yeah, definitely they them. Maybe the gender is not specified. That's the thing. That's the thing that's missing on these pages, but I don't think it's a big deal anyway. But they them is fine. Honestly, there's no issue. Although it does make me wonder, does the soul have a pronoun? Never thought about that. That'll be interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. So yeah, what's the other thing? Also, I swear there is like a trans character anyway, like Noelle. I swear she was at least considered trans at one point, and I'm surprised there wasn't more discussion around that. But it's no big deal, but it's more like oh, this is great, it's actually great representation sort of thing. That's what the big deal is for, when we point out someone as trans or non-binary, or even in the plus spectrum of LGBTQI. There was just so many different types of people out there with different preferences, different identities, and genders and sexualities and lack thereof. It's all such a different type of world, and we just should respect it with obviously what we've got, the information we've got to go off of. So obviously anyone saying like forcing the Ralsei theory, I think needs to just have a good look in the mirror, because it's not there. There just isn't any proof from an unbiased perspective like mine. The only thing is non-binary, but it's only because of they such them. But yeah, I can't really see anything else determining this. It doesn't really debunk anything, and this entire conversation definitely is getting out of hand, and it doesn't need to be this out of hand. That's the point. I think if you're really fighting about this, the best thing to do is just stand down. There's nothing else to add. If your headcanon is that they're trans, and sure, but it's probably better to keep that to yourself. Because if you're trying to force that opinion onto others, you have to provide proof. But without proof, you cannot prove it. That's the entire point. That's what proof is there for. That's why we use it. So that you make a point to convince someone who otherwise could be convinced, or maybe is just not as easy to convince. It really depends. So yeah, I don't really know what else to add. I'm tired. Again, I hope people grow up with this, and I know that the majority of the fan base is probably children and also autistic, no doubt neurodivergent. And the other thing I could say on that is, like my advice before, if I did include it again, it's similar to my obsession with ships in Sonic series, where I used to sort of push for the idea that Aeron was a canon ship, and the problem with that is, even though other shows have unfortunately done a shit job, I have to say, on Sonic Boom, but even though there is hints at different ships, and obviously it is one different ones, and everything is like a different sort of game except for apparently Sonic Boom and Frontiers, apparently they're all canon now, which is a bit dumb. But there is literally no proof, objectively speaking, it's just hints. But it's not proof that they're like, oh, they're boyfriend and girlfriend or what. There is nothing there. And even though it sort of breaks my heart, that isn't a thing. That literally it does. I realised this was actually tearing me apart, mentally and physically, because it just became an obsession. And because of my OCD as well, it gets worse. So autism plus OCD, bad combination. And the moment you realise those things, you just need to let go. You need to move on, like trust me. You might think you can't imagine your life without them, but after having essentially gotten rid of it, essentially doing barely anything to do with it other than a bit of writing here and there, and artwork or animation as I've done, you just start to not notice it. You don't have those issues anymore. It's just not visible. You forget you ever had these issues, and every day that I'm alive it seems to be a thing like that. You know, I even notice that as I'm watching new shows, as I'm playing new games, I just don't think about them like I used to. Even when I'm making artwork, I don't think about them. When I'm making music, obviously it's different, but I don't think about them. And even when I wake up in the morning, it's like I don't really think about them. It's like an obsession. And I think the fastest you get away from that sort of thing, noticing it's an obsession, it's a problem, almost like an addiction, but also not as severe as a physical one, although mental addictions are real, you start to feel so much better. It's just so much more beneficial to do that. So you literally have to address these problems before it gets too late. Otherwise there's going to be big fucking problems. So yeah, what do I even add? You know, it's just insane to think that people can be obsessed with this like I was obsessed. But I sort of understand it. You get a really good headcanon, you get one that's very desirable as well. And it does take over in a way. But at a certain point you just need to let it go. It's literally the best thing for you. And as I've said, I've let go of these things. I've found artwork I can make that I didn't know I could make. found different hobbies, found different games and music. In fact, I've completely cut out Sonic from my life. I don't play any of the games, I don't stay up to date with it. I don't know what streamers or content creators I watch do with it, say about it even. Yeah, I just have nothing to do with it really. It's done the world of good because I no longer fucking care. It's literally the best advice I can give. It's literally like seeing a world in a different light. Even crazier is you can see stuff like it's much better than it. So you might think like the Ralsei is really good, but try a different game, try a different series, try reading or watching One Piece, and you'll just have a different perspective. I'm a bit more obsessed with One Piece than I actually am Sonic at the moment because, yeah, it's literally replacing it. And One Piece is like probably the best storytelling I've ever seen, hands down. Even though it's very long, it's still some of the best storytelling. There's so much going on, so many characters. Even though it seems hard to track, it's actually really easy. And again, the best series I've ever watched. I've never cried so hard about a TV series, let alone a game, where there have been emotional games. But One Piece is definitely the one to do that more often than not. It does make you feel alive in a way. It's truly an experience you don't want to miss. But yeah, that's like my advice. So anyway, let's move on. There's something to talk about whilst I wait for my breakfast and my tea to actually make me need to go to the toilet because I've been struggling with that recently. Thanks, also diverticulitis. Yeah, it's about, well, enough it came up again, Gaz Oakley not being vegan, but it gets me thinking about the way that the community has been, because I think it's important. There is definitely a case to be made where in the vegan community we definitely are guilty of being a bit sort of hostile, not obviously in a sense where they're actually threatening people like the far right does, but hostile in the sense some people will be accepted and others will not, depending on who they are. I have seen people, and this was back when vegan circle jerk was a thing, and they were essentially just Nazis. There's no other way to describe them. But when they were a thing, they were absolutely killing the movement for animal rights and environmental justice. So there's also them to partially blame for this, because they were so toxic towards everyone else that it was just unhealthy. It was an unhealthy amount of bullshit, and that I think resulted in not many people actually turning towards veganism as a logical moral choice. But I feel like it's still somewhat bad even now, but it's not nearly as bad, because I think a while ago we were seeing a lot more vegans because of obviously famous people like a vegan teacher. There's no doubt others as well, I can't remember the names now for some reason. But you know, celebrities like Joaquin Phoenix definitely was vegan. Billie Eilish is vegan. But you know, all of this is contributing to that, and it's kind of important. I really think that the movement has been strong, but it could be stronger. So I really do think there is a case to be made where change is needed in terms of approach, and we don't see nearly enough of people actually making a sort of move to change things for the better here. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it, but one of the worst things that people do in response to animal rights is labelling them as Nazis, or essentially authoritarian, or conservative. Because that is one of the biggest fucking straw mans there is out there at the moment. against veganism because there's already something like protein which is already debunked. So it's still a straw man, but it's easier to debunk. But the conservative one is a bit more difficult because obviously it does sort of have values that are similar, but they're not. And what you have to realise is it's more conservative to try to justify and keep animal products the way they are going now. That just fucks everything. Because obviously we're seeing climate change happening as a result of that. We're seeing ethical issues as a result of that. And health issues as a result. And that's more conservative. Not just from the harm perspective, but that. It's the fact they're trying to keep it in place. Not admitting to any guilt. So again, it's ridiculous. But I suppose you have to explain that, which is annoying. But where it's different for animal rights is, by virtue of rights, it should even be a socialist thing. In fact, that's more socialist than anything else we see towards humans. To treat animals as having the same rights as people. I think that's important. So that's why that's even more progressive than the other side. And that pretty much refutes everything else. But also we serve to reverse what conservatives would want, which is more animal farms. There's things like the things I've mentioned, like causing more environmental harm and more ethical issues. Again, being a vegan is literally to reverse all that, and with purpose. And that's why I don't get why, for some reason, everyone who's vegan is labelled that way. The same way that people who for some reason drive an electric car, unfortunately Teslas is quite a common one that they target. For some reason they're labelled as like Nazis, even though some people bought the electric cars before Elon Musk became a fucking dickhead. Like, what do I even need to say here? But yeah, you can't really have social justice without even animal justice, because that is really a thing. Like, it's all linked, and this is what we've been saying for all this time. Maybe it hasn't been repeated nearly enough as I would have liked it to. I really do think it is an important topic. Yeah. Anyway, don't really have anything else to add, so let's move on. One of the scary things I hadn't considered before about politics is, what if I become recruited to be an MP? And I hadn't really thought about this before, because I just don't think it would ever happen. But in a desperate situation as we are in sort of now, I suppose it's not out of the question. Like, if I were to run for an MP for, like, I don't know, Green Party or Lib Dems, for somewhere that doesn't have any MP for some reason, that I don't even know what I fucking do. Because I wouldn't be able to attend Parliament. It'd be too overwhelming. I'd be too shy, I wouldn't be able to speak. I'd be useless. But if I'm allowed to sit behind a desk and, give some input here and there, I'll be able to. I'll sit behind a computer. But the other way I go about it is also just presenting myself anonymously, because one of the worst things you can do in this sort of situation with politics is to literally just be yourself. As Camp Binface has proven, politics is such a fucking joke that almost being yourself is a death sentence, because that means you're just going to lose in a lot of these parties, and that's why nobody takes it seriously. Meanwhile, anytime there's ever been a mention of Camp Binface in like comment sections and stuff, nobody ever really disagrees. I think everyone, including reform voters, are on board with Camp Binface. And I think it's really interesting. I do think this is the issue. Seriously, if I became MP, and I don't think I'd be fit for MP, I would definitely struggle. I'd like to think that I could do some things different. But there would be a struggle with how I do certain things. Like, I'd look at a town, for example, I'd try to get out and stuff, try to, obviously where I'm residing, I'd try to influence the council and stuff into basically prioritising what matters in these places and even start a new thing about potentially building on land with the least amount of destruction to create housing for vulnerable people. I think that's really important. Yeah, whether people would like that or not is a different question, because they might think, oh, what are you going to fucking do about the immigrants then? Immigrants aren't even a fucking issue. It's a made up issue. And that doesn't really justify anything. I'd certainly express an outrage over the perpetrators, like, definitely call for imprisonment for immigrants and maybe even harsher sentences, because frankly something like that, of misusing that position, it's terrible. It is really one of the worst things. So it does need to be addressed. And so I would sort of encourage the council to contact like police stations and stuff and say that we need to start talking about harsher prison sentences for these types of people, so that they know that they can't get away with this. You know, assuming, again, they are a protected minority, but I don't see any proof that they are. So it's very important, and that would definitely get people on board, I think. As for deportations, it'd be a different thing entirely, because I don't think there's really a world where it's possible. I think, unfortunately, they have to stay. But it could be imprisonment with the option of deported to another prison, wherever that could be, but I don't know. But for sure, I'd stop things like surveillance, mass surveillance, and stop things like potholes not being repaired, because unfortunately I know that all too well. It's just so fucking like pathetic the way I've seen cities and towns actually be. There's so many shitty things that happen in it. I think potholes are probably one of the biggest issues, but there's also stupid roadworks and stuff. Roadworks are such a huge issue, because they just seem to be everywhere when you least expect it and when you don't want it. So I would probably set up a system where I would have to rush contracts through to get people out there as soon as possible, take their time obviously, that's really important to get the work done, but basically rush as fast as possible getting this work done with like a few weeks notice, and then they close down only when they need to and open up only when they're done. Very simple. And the way I see it at the moment is they don't do that, they just leave it there, they put up the stuff, they don't do anything. They put up a fucking, what do you call it? They put up a bloody, those barriers, I can't remember what they're called, bollards, whatever they are. Leave them there for about a month and then don't do anything. They just don't do a single thing in them. And it's just there, getting in the way, annoying people. There's just no reason for it. So we already have that fucking issue. It's so dumb. And yeah, I'd address that. I'd say, like, if you're not going to use this fucking land with these things, these protections here, don't use it. You know, and I'd also probably enforce a rule, like, maybe if there is like an actual situation where someone needs to move, like they have to oblige by that, they should go out there. So it'd be like a rule on the people working on this, that they have to do that sort of thing if it's like an important thing, like a delivery, a food delivery, like a lorry or a truck, whatever you call it. It's so fucking important. But yeah, I was trying to think what else there could be. Obviously, like, policing would be a bit harsh. I think I would employ someone around, like, obviously getting police around the city and stuff. make sure there are obviously like proper responders there, and also emergency, like getting paramedics and stuff to make sure that people are there to help. I think that's really important because of the amount of responses that you get and how slow they are. It's quite shit. I know in my personal situation it's taken like minutes or like longer than like double digit numbers basically to get here, which is a bit stupid, a bit dangerous, and I'd obviously fix something like that as well. I'm trying to think what else like, what people actually care about. I suppose like showing support for people is important. So I'd happily have things like pride flags out there and also charity fundraisers if there's ever an opportunity for that. If people want to do that, that is, definitely not be opposed to those things. It depends on what they're obviously pushing for. So I wouldn't obviously push for like a Unite the Kingdom thing. That can fuck off. But I would push for something like trans support, and you know, if it's like a charity like Mermaids, for example, even though no doubt people will hate that, you know, to help support them, also get police around and stuff. Police hopefully who are more on board with that than obviously these other idiots who don't understand it. And also like counter protests and stuff, I think there would obviously be some opposition there if it ever happened. You never know. What else? I can't really think. For some reason, nothing's coming to mind. Although, actually, there is one thing. Where I live, we're really unfortunately placed, and it comes with a lot of issues because of the toll it has on our mental health and physical health, I think, as well. But I'll do something about this thing. I don't want to go into details of what it is, but it is important. I really think it is a big issue. So I'll do something about that. Like, I'll have to hand a sort of eviction notice, I think, and tell them to fucking move on, because they have to. You know, it's stupid. Like, this shit shouldn't stand, and nobody likes it. So I'd have to do something about it, like offer options and stuff, and that's the thing, I'd be different. I would offer options for things here, so that it's not just a case of like, oh, I'm out to get you. I'd offer things that help. That's the important point of this, I think. So yeah. I'm not sure what else. Also, probably try and evict people who are, yeah, assuming we can do that, like get people out. Also tax people better, definitely implement a sort of wealth tax for people in the place. Yeah, obviously living here, if they are, again, earning more than they should. I think that's pretty important. And then what else? Wealth tax. I suppose I would be trying to get people out who are just not being good, and also I'd just investigate things as well. If somebody not paying rent and the landlord, like, for some reason goes to me, and if there's like scummy landlords, I will deal with that. I'll do something about that. Also, just act as like a prime minister, but for a single town. And then obviously that would just, I think, inspire other people, or at least get me to become prime minister, maybe, if that's even a possibility. And as I said, I'll do it anonymously. It's not a case where, you know, I'm just trying to do these things like, yeah, I don't know what to say. I just try to be in touch with people, in a sense, like do video calls with people who have problems with their homes and can explain their issues, like organise meetings and stuff, sign things, obviously, if I have to. I'll probably have like an agent for that, because obviously if I'm doing it anonymously, I need someone I could trust to do that sort of thing, to make it happen, really. Obviously go back and forth and whatever, and also even just give permission to, I guess, use stuff wherever possible. But yeah, I'll just do a lot of work, essentially. I'll be non-stop doing it, especially if I'm being paid for it. I'm assuming that you get paid for being an MP, and even some are part of a council. But yeah, I certainly do my part. It's far better than what a lot of other people do. That's saying a lot, really, given that the bar is already so low when it comes to this shit. And again, it's so tiring. So much of this shit is just... It's unnecessary, it's just bad. So, yeah. I guess I'll close the podcast now, because there's too much going on at the moment. I also need to do stuff, I'm still busy. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. See everyone next time.